Sat in the dark, awaiting my fate. All there is to do now is to chronicle the end of my days. After all that had been my purpose, the route I had chosen as a young boy. Not born to nobility like some, or blessed with a physique that would allow me advancement in one of the militias raised across the empire, my mind was my release from Rottenbach. My friends had thought it foolish as we sat amongst the ruins of Bugman's brewery. I told them how I had planned to join one of the caravans that traveled from Sonnefert to Summersfall Fort to seek admittance to the newly formed college dedicated to Verena. It seemed like only 3 seasons had passed since I had listened to the magistrate that had traveled to Rottenbach, enthusing about the importance of knowledge and history. How we had spoken into the dimming evening hours about the strictures that spoke of knowledge and history and its importance. First of these was to safeguard knowledge, for it is the foundation stone for civilization. When I first stepped into the college library, the knowledge held in the hundreds of manuscripts seemed to swallow me. My brain ached at the immensity of the racks of parchment, and my throat became dry from the dust that drifted through the flickering light of carefully tended candles. Each candle was carefully attended by an aspirant like myself, that was chief amongst my duties for the first seasons I had spent at the college, tending a single flame, allowing the senior aspirants to read, record, and grow the knowledge that no longer made my brain ache at its enormity, but which I had come to yearn. The strictures told us all knowledge is equally important. Yet the senior aspirant seldom came to the alcove where I carefully tended the light. I had asked one of the priests why it was so, and was admonished for speaking out of turn. Who was I to make such a judgment of others? I had been reminded, preserve your judgment from fear or favor. It was a harsh lesson I learned in the weeks of solitude I was gifted as punishment for speaking out of turn. When I returned to the library once again, tending the light, I had changed. I believed in the strictures, but did they? In the flickering light, I told myself I was right. The knowledge in the parchments lay there rotting, slowly being lost. I strained against my teachings, arguing and philosophizing over each stricture, convincing myself actions that would be against doctrine of the college would be justified. Standing on the precipice, but not daring to act. It didn't take much, just a mere nudge that would set me on my path. It seemed innocuous at the time. The first I noticed was the sound, scurrying across the dry, deep-rutted wooden shelves. I had squinted in the light to the corner recesses of the alcove, seeing movement amongst the tightly bound scrolls. The sound stopped and started. Rhythmically patters of sound drifted through the silent air, drawing me towards its source. It was as I drew close, I saw it amongst the shelves. The noise had stopped, and it appeared to be perched atop a single scroll. I paused, my eyes locked upon it as its gaze met mine. Its black, endless eyes seemed to grow, and I felt my mind being drawn closer as my body froze. The black shifted through purples, flashing with streaks of green hues that burst in my mind for what seemed an eternity, until I was awoken by the screams and shouts of the other aspirants. The heat was almost unbearable. I turned to see a fellow aspirant fall to the ground, his robes consumed in an inferno of raging flames. I glanced across to my station, the candle no longer there. My mind stung with pain as I felt hot wax in my palm. The flames were consuming all. Parchment, flesh, and aged wood all fed the raging inferno. I turned again to the corner of my alcove, where the flame seemed to die against the cold, darkened shelves. I reached towards the bound parchment and grasped it. It burned, but not with heat. It was a burn that reminded me of a chill night in Rottenbach. As I held the parchment, the flames consumed the shelves, revealing a triangular pattern, unfamiliar then, but now an all too familiar sigil of my captors. As I fled the college into the night, a single repository of knowledge in hand, I could not have foreseen the journey ahead. The artifact I sought, the bargains made, lives lost in what was, I had told myself, was the pursuit of my penance. The parchment had set me on a path. I had believed it a mere circumstance, but now I know better. Circumstance does not exist. Machinations of those that move among us unseen manipulate us to their end, not our own. I huddle here somewhere in the gray wastes of the vaults. I hear my captors' plans. They speak of forces gathering, hosts of dwarves drawn from Karak Grom in the south and surrounding mountain holds, hunts of elves patrolling the Lauren Highway with greater fervor, borderland forces massing around Arnalos across from the Limnalea River. I hear whispers of Empire forces gathering on the border of Wiesenland and Bretonnian Krites patrolling to the west. I hold fast to the thought that others who I thought had paid little attention to my journey through the world following that fateful night in summer's fall had perhaps sought a greater part in the events that had come to pass, believing that the interference that I once had feared from others was now my only hope of salvation. I had come to learn that indeed knowledge is the foundation of civilization. However, that knowledge is not ours. It is a knowledge belonging to others, and a civilization alien and abhorrent. My hand has become bloodied as I scratch the last words of a warning into the hard granite. Tielos.